Okay, part two, we're just going to look at a few more principles here for customer retention. So the second principle is relationship building through after marketing. So you might have heard this phrase after marketing before in marketing. But the concept is pretty simple, right? It's basically an approach to retain or further develop customers after the customer has purchased a product, right? So it's this continuing marketing conversation that you're having with the customer after they've already purchased the product. In our case, we're talking, a season ticket holder that's already purchased a season ticket package. This is any kind of marketing that occurs after that point, and really with the specific goal here of being to build a relationship, right? So, basically using those marketing opportunities to be a start point for building a relationship with that client to give them a reason to keep coming back, right? Nike's really good at this concept of relationship marketing, right? Even after you purchase a product from Nike, they find other ways for you to kind of get involved or stay involved with their product and the experience as a whole, right? So when they came out with this Nike Plus a few years ago, it's basically you buy the shoes, then you get the app that gives you access to this all of this other inventory and different perks that you could access in order to maintain your workout routine. And it was basically like a continued conversation with that customer, also a great way to collect data on that customer. Just so happens, but they're really good at after marketing. The Blackhawks are really good with this kind of thing. If you're local, you might know that Blackhawks have an annual convention with all their season ticket holders where they invite them. It's like a 2 or 3 day long event where they get to interact with the players, with management, with coaches, and it's really meant to be, this additional experience for those season ticket holders, and it ends up being a really great way for them to continue building that relationship with those clients over time. When we think about relationship building, it may seem pretty simple, but there are some specific touch points for sales executives in particular where they can do this basic relationship building, right? It doesn't have to be some massive event that's held once a year. There are ways that individual sales reps or service reps can actually work to build relationships with season ticket holders. You can see I've listed several of those here. Obviously, something as simple as a thank you note, going and visiting a customer once they're in their seats during the game, just to make that connection. You can see there's other examples here, taking advantage of, some of the data that you have about a customer, right? You know that their birthday is going to be on Thursday and there's a game that night. So maybe you have, the concessionaire send out a birthday cupcake to them in their seats. Stuff like that could be something pretty simple and straightforward, but over time, you're building a relationship with that client through those touch points, which is really key to maintaining the customer retention. All right, principle number 3 here is utilize technology. So, there are a couple things to mention here in terms of technology. First would be, thinking about different renewal options for your customers, right? And understanding that you have very different subsets of clients, right? Not everyone is going to be as adept with technology, in terms of your season ticket holder base, right? You might have some old school folks that still want to get those printed tickets delivered in the mail versus, someone who's really tech savvy and just wants everything to be done on mobile, right? So having those options, I think, is really key for teams right now so that they can appeal to a variety of groups there. In terms of technology, in-stadium tech is obviously becoming, pretty common, especially for new stadiums that are being built. I shared with you in preparation for our guest speaker this week the Sacramento Kings stadium that was built in 2016, and how they basically have deemed it to be the most tech-savvy sports stadium in the country, where they're on top of all the Wi-Fi. They have 5G. They've got all of these in-seat technology features, like you can control specific temperature at your seat. These things that are just super high tech, and end up adding to the customer experience, right? And as we talked about, we looked at those sportscape lists, those types of experiences that the customer is having with your actual facility, whether it's they're walking to go get something from the concession stand, using the restroom, sitting in their seat. As much as technology can improve those experiences, that's going to assist with customer retention. And in terms of technology, obviously things are changing on a daily basis, right? I'm sure that even some of the things that they employed in Sacramento in 2016 might seem outdated now, right? Or there are new trends to be considered. So for teams, it's really key that they're kind of staying ahead of the curve in terms of the different trends that are coming. And certainly those teams that aren't paying attention to tech are probably going to fall behind in terms of retention, because people are coming to expect a certain experience when they come to the stadium or arena. All right, the fourth principle here, and final principle I will add, is evaluation. So basically, customer service plans and initiatives mean nothing if we don't go back and evaluate how successful they are, right? So evaluation is really key to understanding whether or not your customer retention strategies are working. So did we actually meet or achieve the objectives we had in terms of retention? And there are a number of ways to assess this, right? Certainly you can look at return on investment, right? Based on the amount of money that we invested in the retention process versus how much revenue we generated. Through renewals this year, that can certainly be a metric that's looked at. Probably the number one metric for evaluation is actually going to be the renewal rate. What percentage of our season ticket holder seats did we actually renew this year? That's going to be a key metric for sports organizations to assess, kind of where they're at each year. And then, there's like qualitative feedback that can be helpful here as well, right? Certainly, as we know, customer feedback, specifically and directly from the customers, is going to be useful in determining kind of why people left or why they're thinking of leaving, and that certainly should assist or help us adapt strategies moving forward. So maybe doing something like an exit interview when a client says they're not going to renew and you're unable to get them to stay. That kind of feedback can be really valuable. And the same is true for employee feedback, right? So from a management perspective, getting the insight from your sales staff or your service staff, the people that are actually on the phones, having these conversations with the clients that may or may not be renewing, and using that qualitative feedback again to try to adapt and adjust your retention strategies moving forward. All right. Just wanted to kind of highlight here as we close that I did put a couple of articles up on ReggieNet in addition to our video lectures this week. And this last one that I added I think is really interesting, and I'm curious to know your input on this particular concept. Basically, a couple years ago, the Cleveland Cavaliers started to transition their season ticket holder plans to be more like membership plans. And part of the goal in doing that was to create an auto renewal system where essentially fans have to actively cancel their season tickets or it will automatically be renewed. Much like your gym membership might be, your membership to Netflix, all these sorts of things. So curious to know your thoughts on this as whether or not you think this is an effective way to retain customers, what might be some of the risks, etc. So interested to see what you have to say about that. I'm going to post that to ReggieNet as well as another article, so make sure you're taking the time to read through those as a supplement to our video lecture. Okay, that's all I have for you on customer retention. Again, this is an incredibly important component to sales for any sport organization. We know that there's value in holding on to customers for as long as possible. So finding specific strategies that work to retain our existing customers is really key to successful business operations. All right, that's all I have. Everyone have a great week.